when Counselor Valor Zan casually wiped out 47 human civilians during what he called routine pest control. He figured he was just swatting flies. What he really did, though, was wake up the galaxy's deadliest apex predators, the ones who've been playing harmless refugees for the last 800 years. Turns out, the Galactic Council was about to find out why 3 different alien coalitions had once tried to wipe humanity out before we could spread to the stars, and why all 3 attempts had gone down in flames. I watched Counselor Valor Zan's chitin-covered fingers drum impatiently on his command console as he stared at the human colony ship drifting through space like a wounded animal. New Haven? Man, what a joke of a name for something that primitive. The hull looked like it had been slapped together by kids messing around with scrap metal. "Sir, the boarding pods are ready," his aide said, a younger Vorthan, mandibles clicking like he was about to come apart. "Standard pest control protocols are loaded." Valor's compound eyes shimmered with amusement. Pest control. That's all they ever called it. Just cleaning up the galaxy, getting rid of hairless bipeds who thought they had any right to be out here among the stars. Humans had been warned again and again not to wander too close to Vorthon trade routes. Guess now we were about to learn our place. "Deploy the pods, quick and clean," Valor said, sounding bored, like someone crushing a bug without even looking. "I've got a dinner with the Trade Federation in 3 cycles." The assault pods launched like a swarm of metal wasps, slamming into the ship's hull with perfect precision. From his viewport, Valor could see tiny human figures scrambling around in panic. Honestly, he found it funny. To him, we moved like scared rodents facing a real predator. This was supposed to be routine. Board the ship, confiscate anything illegal, rough up a few colonists to make the message clear. Then send them crawling back to that little blue mud ball with their tails tucked between their legs. Simple, efficient, standard, except someone in Pod 7 got a little too eager. The explosion tore through the colony ship's central habitat ring like a blooming firestorm, venting air and bodies straight into space. Valor watched 47 humans die in a blink, including one small figure spinning helplessly through the void like a broken doll. His aide's mandibles started chattering like crazy. "Sir, that was the civilian section. There were children there." Valor just shrugged, his exoskeleton scraping as he moved. "Acceptable losses when dealing with primitive apes. Log it as resistance encountered. Force authorized." He didn't even hesitate. The Council will rubber stamp it like always. When the Galactic Council called an emergency session, it had all the urgency of a casual get-together. High Arbiter Kor sat at the center, his massive body dominating the chamber as all 6 of his arms waved dismissively. Holograms floated around him, showing the wreckage of the New Haven. "So let me get this straight," Drem said, his voice grinding like stone. "The humans are upset over a minor skirmish with completely reasonable casualties?" The chamber erupted into laughter. Admiral Sarens of the Gentari Collective smacked his scaled knee, practically wheezing, his sharp teeth flashing under the lights. 47 dead primitives, and now they think they can make demands? He laughed. These barely evolved primates flying around in scrap metal want justice? What's next? Farm animals asking for voting rights? Ambassador Leor Thane from the Phantom Syndicate floated nearby in his containment sphere, his gaseous form swirling in what passed for amusement. "Honored colleagues, maybe we're being too harsh," he said. "After all, humans should be grateful we even allow them to exist. Most civilized species would have sterilized that little blue rock ages ago." That just made everyone laugh harder. Valor stood there soaking it all in, clearly enjoying the approval. "The operation followed textbook procedure," he said proudly. A handful of dead colonists is a useful reminder of where they stand in the galactic hierarchy. Drem raised one massive hand, and the room quieted down. "What exactly are the humans demanding?" he asked. Some junior aide, an insectoid nobody bothered remembering, scurried forward, holding a data tablet. "They're requesting immediate reparations, sir. Full compensation for the victims' families, a public acknowledgement of wrongdoing, and they've given us 72 hours to respond." The silence lasted maybe 3 seconds. Then the entire chamber lost it. Admiral Sarens laughed so hard he actually fell off his perch. 72 hours? They gave us a deadline? Oh, this is priceless. What happens if we ignore them? Do they send a strongly worded letter? Lior pulsed with amusement. Maybe they'll threaten to cry at us, or, wait, maybe they'll hold their breath until they turn blue. A pause. Oh, right. They're already blue. Even the usually serious delegates from the crystal hegemony were making soft, chiming sounds. Basically, their version of snickering. Drem wiped tears from his primary eyes. "This is adorable. File the human ultimatum under entertainment. Send them a reply declining their generous offer, and include our regrets that they find galactic law so inconvenient." Counselor Vaylor Zand straightened up proudly. "Should we deploy additional security forces to human space, Arbiter, just in case they try something foolish?" Drem's laughter shook the walls. "My dear Vaylor, that would be like sending a battle fleet after a nest of angry rodents." He waved it off. "Completely unnecessary." Meanwhile, I was just sitting there enjoying my morning coffee aboard the patrol ship Defiant, right up until the universe decided to flip itself upside down. The quantum comm array lit up like a carnival ride, emergency frequencies screaming with a coded signal I hadn't seen once in 20 years of service. "What in the 7 hells?" I muttered, almost dropping my mug as the authentication codes scrolled across my screen. My hand started shaking while I entered my command authorization. Every digit I typed felt like hammering another nail into someone's coffin. Code Crimson Genesis. Authorization level Omega Black. All shepherds. Active status. The children of Terra have been wronged. My blood went ice cold. Code Crimson Genesis. I'd only ever heard about it in whispers back at the academy. Late-night stories from instructors who'd had too much to drink and remembered way more than they wanted to. A protocol that hadn't been triggered in 800 years. A protocol most people thought was just a myth. "Bridge to engineering," I called out, surprised my voice didn't crack. "I need full monitoring on all deep space communications for the next few hours. Priority alpha encryption." What happened next? Yeah, if Counselor Vaylor Zand had seen it, his eyes probably would have popped right out of his skull. Deep under Earth's Pacific Ocean, down in trenches so dark they make space look bright, ancient facilities started waking up. The Mariana Trench Complex, buried beneath 7 miles of crushing water, and locked behind layers of classification no bureaucrat could even dream of accessing, received the signal and responded like a sleeping dragon getting stabbed with a sharp stick. And it wasn't just there. All across the planet, systems started coming online. In Antarctica, under ice sheets that had been hiding humanity's worst secrets for centuries, massive installations began pulling energy straight from the planet's core. Aurora Station, officially just a research facility, lit up and started transmitting signals that made the northern lights twitch and dance like they were having a seizure. But the real nightmare fuel, that was happening out in the orbital graveyards, all across the solar system, in those quiet zones where old ships go to die. Derelict hulks that had been dead for generations suddenly weren't anymore. Emergency beacons, silent since before the first human ever stepped foot on Mars, flickered back to life. They started broadcasting coordinates, power signatures, And something else, too. Something that sounded a whole lot like laughter. Meanwhile, the Gentari spy network, Admiral Saren's pride and joy, started picking up gravitational distortion so bad their systems were practically screaming. Near Jupiter's great red spot, space itself looked like it was folding in on itself, like origami in the hands of someone completely unhinged. Saturn's rings started vibrating at frequencies that shouldn't even exist, creating harmonics strong enough to register 3 star systems away. "Sir," one intelligence officer reported, his scales literally shifting color from stress, "we're detecting massive energy surges across the Sol system. The humans appear to be powering up something big." Admiral Sarens, still riding high from his little comedy routine at the council, waved it off. Probably just their pathetic factories working overtime to build more scrap ships. Keep watching, but don't waste resources on it. Yeah, that was a mistake, because what their spy networks couldn't see, what their best sensors couldn't even begin to measure, was the quantum entanglement spreading through subspace like wildfire. Ancient AIs were waking up, and the very first thing they all thought was the same: who dared harm the children of Terra? Back on my ship, I watched the readings spike across my instruments, and I'll be honest, I felt both awe and pure gut-level fear. Whatever humanity had been hiding for 8 centuries, it was about to introduce itself to the galaxy. And what came rising out of Earth's oceans? Yeah, that was the kind of thing that gives entire civilizations nightmares. Seismic monitors all over the planet started lighting up as massive structures, dormant for 800 years, kicked into motion. Under the Bermuda Triangle, along the Pacific Ring of Fire, and in a dozen other places, conspiracy theorists had been yelling about for years. Ancient shipyards began to move, stretching, waking, like titans pulling themselves out of a cosmic sleep. The shepherds were the first to come online, and calling them AI, that's like calling a hurricane a light breeze. These things were something else entirely. Quantum consciousness constructs. Pure thought wrapped in computational systems so advanced they made galaxy-class supercomputers look like cheap toys. They'd been asleep, waiting, dreaming about the day humanity's children might actually need protecting. That day came with Dr. Alara Mendes's final scream. Primary Shepherd designation Omega-7 to all nodes, the first consciousness broadcast across quantum space. The flock has been threatened. A pause. Then the command came down. Initiate Genesis protocol. Begin the harvest. What happened next? Even the Crystal Hegemony's top engineers would have broken down just trying to understand it. Because these shipyards didn't build ships, they grew them. Materials forged at the quantum level started assembling themselves molecule by molecule, following blueprints embedded right into the fabric of space. These weren't normal ships made of metal and plasma. They were something else. Biomechanical monsters, alive, breathing, pulsing with organic rhythm, covered in technology that existed long before humanity was ever supposed to reach the stars. The first one to emerge was Nemesis Dawn, a kilometer-long monster that looked like someone crossed a whale with a weapons platform, then gave it a serious attitude problem. Its hull moved like living skin, black as deep space, threaded with glowing veins that looked like trapped starlight. Then came Creeper's Hymn, long, sleek, shaped like a blade the size of a city, and yeah, if swords could sing death songs and phase through solid matter, that's exactly what it looked like. Along its length, resonators tuned themselves to frequencies that could shatter planets, or worse, completely break the minds of anyone who heard the full song. But the one that really made a statement, that was Widowmaker. It rose straight out of the Mariana Trench like some ancient god of war crawling back into existence, and just by being there, it broke every known law of physics, Its hull didn't just sit in normal space. It looked like it existed across multiple dimensions at once, bending light in ways that made you question what you were even looking at. These ships, they were relics from humanity's lost centuries, the era that had been quietly scrubbed out of galactic history. Back when we first clawed our way out of Earth's gravity well and realized we weren't alone, and then realized maybe being alone would have been better. Every single ship carried tech that had no business existing. Quantum cores pulling energy straight out of the screaming void between dimensions. Weapons that could literally rewrite the laws of physics in a localized area. Shields that existed in 17 dimensions at the same time. But honestly, the scariest part wasn't the ships. It was who or what was piloting them. Not humans. These ships didn't need fragile bodies on board. Instead, they carried digital minds, the preserved consciousness of humanity's deadliest warriors, pulled straight from an era when Earth fought wars that would make the Galactic Council's conflicts look like playground fights. Admiral Kaya Rin, the strategist who shut down 3 separate alien invasions before the Council even existed. Commander Jackson Mercer, the guy who personally strangled a Gentari warlord with his bare hands. Captain Darius Steele, the woman who walked out of the bombardment of Terra Colony 7 without a scratch. These weren't just names. They were legends, now turned into code, nightmares with military training, and yeah, they were absolutely furious about what happened to Dr. Alara Mendez. As the fleet gathered in Earth's outer atmosphere, the combined mass and energy started bending gravity hard enough that sensors halfway across the galaxy picked it up. Think about that. Ships that only partially existed in normal space, crewed by digitized killers from humanity's bloodiest history, armed with tech that made modern galactic weapons look like sharpened sticks. And then they sent out a message across every frequency, clear, simple, terrifying. This is the Terra Defense Fleet. A pause. We are coming. Another beat. Prepare accordingly. That was it. No threats, no negotiation, just a promise. The first real sign that things had gone completely off the rails came from the Outer Rim sensor network. Station Delta 7 picked up contacts that made their systems basically have a meltdown. "Sir, you need to see this," Communications Officer Tyrek stammered, his tentacles shaking as he handed Admiral Sarens a data pad. "Long-range sensors are detecting, well, we're not even sure what they're detecting." Saren glanced at it and laughed. 47 ships heading our way? That's supposed to scare me," he scoffed. "Looks like the humans emptied every scrapyard they have just to scrape together something this—" He stopped. First, it was the velocity readings, then the mass, then the energy signatures that made absolutely no sense. "These numbers, they're wrong," he said quietly, his scales turning a sick yellow. "Ships this size don't move like that. And this energy output, it's higher than our entire battle fleet combined." All across the galaxy, the same realization was hitting. Every major sensor array was tracking the fleet, and nothing about it made sense. At a Phantom Syndicate station near the Crab Nebula, the reports started coming in fast and panicked. "The human ships are going straight through the asteroid field," one operator said, voice shaking. "Not avoiding them, phasing through them, like they're not fully in our dimension." Over at the Crystal Hegemony's gravitational research facility, things weren't any better. "The ships are completely ignoring gravity wells," their chief scientist reported, his voice breaking. "At that size, they should be affected by planetary gravity, stellar pull, even the galactic center. But they're moving like gravity just doesn't exist to them." But the worst report? That landed on Counselor Vaylor Zan's desk, and it hit him so hard his exoskeleton actually started shedding plates. His intelligence network, the pride of the Vorthan Empire, had been digging through ancient classified records trying to figure out what they were dealing with. What they found. It broke them. "Sir," his aide chittered, mandibles snapping uncontrollably, "we found references to these ship designs in restricted archives. They match vessels from humanity's lost centuries, from something called the Silent Wars." Valor locked onto him. "The Silent Wars are a myth. Stories made up to scare cadets." "No, sir," the aide whispered. "They're real. We cross-checked with 17 different species' historical records." A pause. 800 years ago, humanity fought wars so brutal, so devastating, that every species involved agreed to lock the records away at the highest possible classification. Valor didn't say anything. He just stared. "Sir, these ships weren't built for conquest, not for occupation." Another pause. "They were designed for total war." A beat. "Complete extermination of enemy species." The datapad slipped right out of Valor's claws. "How?" he muttered, barely able to get the words out. "How do they have technology this far beyond what they should?" The aide swallowed hard. "Our analysis shows quantum manipulation, dimensional phase shifting, and something our scientists are calling reality editing." Silence. Then the final blow. "Sir, humans didn't just hide advanced technology from us." Another pause. "They hid the fact that they were already a Type 3 civilization when we first made contact." And just like that, panic hit the Galactic Council. It spread faster than a plague. High Arbiter Core flailed all 6 arms, trying and failing to process the flood of incoming reports. "You're telling me," he roared, his voice shaking the chamber itself, "that for 3 centuries we've been treating apex predators like they were domesticated pets?" Nearby, Ambassador Leor Thane's gaseous form twisted into chaotic patterns, his species' version of outright panic. The energy readings showed that each one of those ships packed enough firepower to wipe out an entire star system, and there were 47 of them. Admiral Saren Sarens was pacing back and forth now, his usual confidence completely gone, replaced by something a whole lot closer to panic. "Our intelligence networks are pulling crew manifests," he said, voice tight. "These ships aren't staffed by modern humans. They're run by digital copies of humanity's greatest military leaders from their war era." He swallowed. "We're not just dealing with advanced ships. We're up against the minds that invented total war." The chamber went dead silent. You could feel it the moment everyone realized just how badly they'd screwed up. "Counselor Valor Zan," High Arbiter Core said quietly, too quietly, "remind me, what exactly did you call that operation against the human colony ship?" Valor's exoskeleton was practically falling apart now, plates dropping off like dry leaves. Pest control, sir." Drem didn't blink. "And how many of their children died?" 47 civilians, sir," Valor stammered, "including 1 juvenile, Dr. Alara Mendez." The silence that followed stretched out so long it started to feel physical, painful. "So let me get this straight," Drem continued, his voice dropping even lower, which somehow made it worse. "We just killed the children of a species that can rewrite the laws of physics, commanded by resurrected war minds, while they were pretending to be primitives for our benefit?" Valor couldn't even speak any more. He just nodded. Drem slowly looked around the chamber, and every single council member, no matter what species, looked terrified in their own way. Then the human fleet arrived. Except, arrived isn't really the right word. They didn't jump in. They didn't warp. They just existed there, like the universe suddenly decided empty space needed to be filled with 47 living nightmares. No FTL signatures, no energy buildup, no warning. 1 second, the Leor Prime defense grid was scanning empty space. The next, It was staring straight down the barrel of humanity's rage. Admiral Sarens was halfway through a routine briefing when every alarm in the command center started screaming at once. "Sir!" a sensor operator shouted, voice cracking. "We have contacts. 47 vessels just appeared at the edge of the system." "Appeared?" Sarens snapped, irritation flashing across his scales. "Ships don't just appear, you idiot. Check your instruments." "Sir, instruments are working perfectly," the operator said, barely holding it together. "The human fleet is broadcasting on all frequencies." The main screen flickered on, and there she was, a human woman, cold eyes, steady, the kind that didn't just promise violence, they guaranteed it. Her uniform was jet black, marked with insignia no one in the galaxy recognized, but somehow it still radiated authority strong enough to make hardened warriors want to stand at attention. "This is Fleet Commander Kaya Ren of the Terra Defense Force," she said, calm as a storm right before it breaks. "I am here to collect those responsible for the murder of 47 human civilians, including the child Dr. Alara Mendez." She didn't raise her voice, didn't need to. "You have 60 seconds to surrender the perpetrators for immediate execution, or we will demonstrate why your ancestors classified the Silent Wars." Back in the council chamber, the emergency session came together faster than ever before. And the place? It reeked of fear, literally, a dozen species pumping out panic pheromones at once. "This is absurd!" Drem roared, even though his voice shook. "We do not negotiate with primitives." He slammed one massive hand down. "Activate the defense grid. Show them what happens when you threaten the Galactic Council." The Lior Prime Defense Network was supposed to be unbeatable. 16,000 automated platforms, each one capable of leveling continents. Shields that could tank stellar flares. Targeting systems that could track objects moving at nearly light speed. According to every expert in known space, it was untouchable. Fleet Commander Kaya Ren just smiled, and I'm telling you, that smile would have made death nervous. "Ghost of Terra," she said calmly into her comms, "please give our hosts a demonstration of human hospitality." What happened next? Yeah, it broke the definition of impossible in about 17 different languages. The Ghost of Terra moved, not forward, not backward. It moved in ways that didn't make sense, like space itself wasn't a rule it had to follow. The defense grid opened fire immediately. Thousands of beams, strong enough to punch through moons, locked onto the target with perfect precision. Every single shot passed straight through the Ghost of Terra, like it wasn't even there. "What in the—" Saren stared at his displays, completely thrown. His weapon systems were reporting direct hits. His sensors said the ship was untouched. "Are our weapons malfunctioning?" "No, sir," his weapons officer whispered. "The ship, it's not fully in our dimension. It's shifting between dimensional states faster than our systems can track." Then the Ghost of Terra responded. And it didn't just destroy the defense grid, it did something worse. It rewrote it. Thin beams, almost invisible, reached out from the ship, brushing each platform for a fraction of a second. That was all it took. Platform 77 Alpha, one of the finest pieces of Gentari engineering ever built, just folded. Its structure rearranged itself at the molecular level, reshaping into something completely useless. Something wrong. By the time it finished, it looked less like a weapon and more like a piece of abstract art, one that looked disturbingly like a face that was screaming. Platform 92. Beta got an even stranger fate. Its AI core was rewritten on the fly, and suddenly it started broadcasting the entire collection of human poetry across every military frequency, while at the same time turning its weapons on nearby platforms with cold, precise efficiency. Then there was the Phantom Syndicate's pride and joy. Platform, Delta Prime. Its energy shields got converted into conductive material mid-operation, triggering feedback loops so violent the whole station lit up like the most expensive fireworks show in galactic history. "This is impossible!" Admiral Sarens roared, staring at his tactical display as one defense platform after another got turned from military hardware into something else entirely. "Our technology is centuries ahead of anything humans should have." His sensor operator slowly looked up, eyes hollow, like he'd just seen the end of the universe. "Sir, according to our scans, that human ship is manipulating matter at the quantum level. They're not destroying our platforms." He swallowed hard. "They're rewriting their atomic structure." 6 minutes, that's all it took. In less than 6 minutes, the so-called impenetrable Lear Prime defense grid turned into a floating museum of abstract art. Not a single platform was destroyed, not in the normal sense. They were all changed. No debris, no explosion signatures, just the lingering feeling that reality itself had been edited by someone with a seriously twisted sense of humor. Then Commander Kane's voice came through again, calm, steady, cutting straight through the silence. "That was our polite introduction." A brief pause. "The next demonstration will be considerably less gentle." Another beat. "I repeat, surrender those responsible for the deaths of our civilians, or learn why your predecessors classified our military capabilities beyond maximum security." High Arbiter Kor stood there staring at the remains of what used to be his unbeatable defense grid. And for the first time in his long career, he understood what real fear felt like. His voice shook as he opened a direct channel to the human fleet, all 6 of his arms moving frantically as he tried to hold things together. "Fleet Commander Kaya Ren," he said, his massive frame somehow looking smaller than ever. "Explain this. How does a primitive species possess technology that surpasses our most advanced civilizations? This is impossible based on every intelligence report we have." Kane laughed. "And that sound? Yeah, it made seasoned warriors across multiple systems start thinking about retirement." "Primitive?" she said, clearly amused. "Oh, Drem, you magnificent idiot." A small shake of her head. "You really believed the act, didn't you?" Across the chamber, confusion spread like wildfire. Kane leaned forward slightly, her eyes locking onto them like targeting lasers. "Let me educate you," she said almost casually, "because your intelligence networks missed a few very important details. Earth isn't just some garden world that accidentally evolved dangerous animals." A pause. "It's a death world." Another beat. 4 billion years of evolution, perfecting the most efficient killers the universe has ever seen. Admiral Sarens tried to push back, desperation creeping into his voice. "But your technology, your industry, our surveys clearly showed—" "Exactly what we wanted you to see," Kane cut in, smiling in a way that could have frozen stars. "Every ship you've encountered, every colony you visited, every piece of tech you've analyzed—" She let that hang for a second. All of it was staged. Silence filled the chamber again, heavy this time, because now it made sense. "We learned something important during what your ancestors called the Silent Wars," Kane continued. 800 years ago, when we first left Earth, we made a mistake." A flick of her hand, and the display shifted to old records, records that made several council members physically recoil. "We showed the galaxy exactly what we could do." Her expression hardened. "And in response, 3 separate coalitions formed with one goal: wipe us out before we could spread." Images flashed. The Cathara hegemony tried to sterilize Earth with quantum bombs. A pause. "We turned their entire star system into a memorial garden." Another beat. with their leadership still alive as the centerpiece. More images. The fourth collective attempted biological warfare against our colonies. Her voice stayed calm, so we returned the favor. Another pause. We turned their atmosphere into something close to sulfuric acid. Back in the chamber, Valor was practically falling apart, his exoskeleton shedding plates so fast it looked like he was dissolving. But galactic records show humans as barely spacefaring, he managed to say. Kane didn't even blink. Because we rewrote those records. Her tone shifted, calm, almost patient. After the third attempt at genocide, we realized something. A beat. The galaxy isn't ready for apex predators. Silence. So we decided to pretend to be prey. That hit like a bomb. You've been hiding, someone whispered. Kane nodded slightly. In plain sight. She gestured lightly like it was all obvious. Every colony ship you've seen, built to look primitive. Every military vessel, designed to seem weak. Every interaction with your species. A faint smile, carefully choreographed. Across the chamber, Ambassador Leor Thane's gaseous form twisted wildly, complete mental collapse. You've been treating us like children with dangerous toys, he said, barely holding it together. Kane tilted her head. Not children, she corrected gently. A pause. Pets. Her eyes hardened. Cute, clumsy pets, who occasionally need to be reminded not to bite the hand that feeds them. High Arbiter Core finally put it all together. The full scale of humanity's deception hit him at once. All those trade agreements, the territorial concessions, the limits on human expansion, he said slowly. That was all designed to make us feel superior, like we were in control, while you quietly spread across the galaxy. Kane gave a small, approving nod. Do you have any idea how hard it was to pretend your technology impressed us? She said, almost amused. Our engineers had to come up with entirely new forms of entertainment just to keep from laughing during negotiations. The chamber went completely silent. Not the usual kind of quiet. This was the kind you get at a funeral. Then Kane's expression shifted. But then Counselor Valor Zan here decided to play pest control with our civilians. Her voice dropped to a whisper, and somehow that made it worse. 47 human lives, including 8-year-old Dr. Ilara Mendez. A pause. You killed our children. Another beat. And that crossed a line we drew in blood 800 years ago. She stood, her image filling every screen in the chamber. Here are your options. Her tone was calm, final. Option 1, full and immediate reparations to the victims' families. A public acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Complete withdrawal of all Council forces from human space. A slight pause. And the personal execution of those responsible for the New Haven incident. Admiral Sarens managed to speak, though his voice sounded like it might shatter. And option 2? Kane smiled again. And yeah, more than a few council members just dropped where they stood. Option 2, she said almost lightly, is that we stop pretending to be harmless and remind the galaxy why 3 separate coalitions tried to wipe us out before we could spread. She let that sink in. That little demonstration from the ghost of Terra? She added. That was us being polite. Her eyes hardened. When we stop being polite, entire star systems tend to develop a sudden and permanent condition of not existing anymore. Drim looked around the chamber. Every single council member was terrified. And the math? It wasn't complicated. Surrender or extinction. They'd spent centuries treating humanity like something beneath them, like pets. Turns out they'd been dealing with apex predators the whole time. We accept your terms, Drim said quietly, his massive body sagging like something finally broke inside him. Kane nodded once. Counselor Valor Zan will be transferred to human custody within 6 hours for immediate execution. Reparations will be paid within 72 hours. All Council forces will withdraw from human space within 1 standard week. The channel started to close, but before it did, Kane spoke one last time. Calm, certain, the kind of voice that sticks with you forever. You killed one of our children. A pause. And we're giving you a chance to make it right. Another beat. Consider this mercy. Her eyes didn't move, because there won't be a second warning. The screen went dark, and just like that, the Galactic Council was left alone, with the realization that for 300 years they'd been treating the most dangerous species in the galaxy like house pets. And those pets? Yeah, they had very, very long memories.